Since I always seem to start with some type of project at the beginning of an episode, what am I working on today? Well, the first thing I'll be working with is the Forestry MultiFarm. We saw the managed single block farms before. I used that in a very early episode to do some crop farming. But now I want one with a little more flexibility. The multi-block has configurable sizing, but I want to go with the smallest one, which is a 3x3 base that is 4 tall. It has to be composed entirely out of farm blocks, except for blocks that are derived from farm blocks, like farm valves and farm controls. You then define the area by putting the matching material in a ring around the central column. I'm not going to go into detail about how big you can make it or whatever. If you really want to know that, you can check any wiki. The smallest size is perfect for my planned use case though. Since I'm talking about the farm, I might as well explain what each of its components do. Hatches are item ports, valves are fluid ports, gearboxes are energy ports, and control is a redstone port. Most of you are probably fine with just that definition, but it essentially means that I can input and output items through a hatch, fluid through a valve, and put in energy through a gearbox, and turn the machine on or off through the controls. As for what you actually are going to end up farming, you're going to need to solder some electron tubes onto a circuit board, and then put that into the farm to decide what it's going to do. By default it will do trees, and you'll need to supply it with particular items to make it work. Pretty much all farms need some type of dirt. All of this will be placed on that ring I mentioned, and it will put the right type of soil down as long as it's configured properly. For trees it will turn it into humus. For crops, farmland, etc. And you'll also have to supply the farm with both water and fertilizer. It sure is a good thing I have automated sources of appetite now. What was it that I actually wanted to farm though? Well, this is going to be a flower farm. I want large amounts of dye, and unfortunately it's not that simple to get a farm going for flowers. The farm will plant flowers on its own, but it won't harvest them on their own when they're all grown up. Do note that the farm won't automatically travel the land, nor will it apply weed killer. I have to do all of that on my own. It's also important to remember that while I can swap out the types of flowers I'm growing, not every type of flower will be happy to grow on this type of dirt. You're realistically going to need different types of soil for different types of plants. All the very basic ones seem to be okay with regular pH soil and regular temperature environment at least. Well, most of them. A couple of them do have some pickiness. None of the ones I'm growing right away, though. There might be a better way of doing this. In fact, there probably is. But the way I've decided to go about flower harvesting is to use water, as well as a bunch of ender chests all on the same frequency. The basic gist of this system is that the water is going to flow, it's going to harvest all of the flowers, and then it's going to push them all into hoppers that put them all in the same ender chest. This ender chest then sorts between germlings and grown flowers, and all germlings get sent back to the farm, and some of the flowers get turned into dye, and some of them go back into the machine. I've concluded that a 2-to-1 ratio of dye to replant is a good one for having this system run effectively. How do the specifics of the harvesting mechanism work though? Well, like I said, I have an item distribution system, which filters the different types of items and puts them where I want them to go. Conveniently, this filter accepts all flowers and all germlings as separate entities, so I don't have to redo the filters if I want to change out the flowers. That gets us to the actual harvesting apparatus though. There are multiple ways I could have approached this. The easiest way would probably have just been using some pistons, and have the water constantly flowing, but I figured, you know what, I'll use some machines I haven't really used much. So I used some Buildcraft pipes instead, as well as some Project Red redstone components. Here I have a golden pipe with a gate on it, and the gate determines if there is water flowing in the pipe, and if there is, it emits a redstone signal. This is on the same network as a timer, and both of these hit a toggle latch. The timer turns the toggle latch on, which then activates the pipe pulsar, which pulses the water into the floodgate. The floodgate can only push the water block out the bottom, so it does. And that flows down onto the garden, which harvests all the flowers and pushes them into the hoppers. It occasionally misses a couple, but that's okay. The pump will eventually detect that there's water there, and it will pick it up, automatically cleaning up the water. And then because it's pushing water out and into the tank, the pipe detects this and reactivates the toggle latch to turn the system off. It was a fun system to set up. I need a type of automatic crafting machine that's capable of taking in a bunch of different item inputs that are unspecified, and crafting them in a 1x1 grid. I wonder what tools I have. Oh yeah, the Arcane Crafter. It's perfect for this. I just need to put the ender chest that has all the excess flowers in it on top, and then the regular chest on the bottom, and it will convert all of the flowers into their respective dyes. It sure is fortunate that I have a machine like this. I don't want to think about what it would have been like if I had to craft all of these into dyes manually. Even in a seemingly homogeneous set of flowers, you're going to end up with some variance. While I've been out and about with all these flowers, I've also done some breeding on the side, and it seems like I've come across a crop I was looking for, the GlowShroom. This is a crop that produces glowstone dust. Since I'm not getting that from the ore bore or any other method, now I have an automated method of producing glowstone. In a previous world, I tried automating glowstone with some complicated alchemy. It did kinda work, but it was very complicated. This is much simpler. Not as simple as EMC, obviously. Since I'm going to be making a bunch of flowers on my own time, I'll want a way to track all the species I have. This is where the database comes in handy. It has a whole bunch of different features about flowers. There are also a couple other types for different things. This is just going to be for flowers. It can tell you what possible combinations of flowers produce what other flowers, but you have JEI for that. It also tells you what types of flowers you've discovered, probably determining that by how many types you've picked up. But something that I think is useful is the color mixer. I can determine what combinations of colors make other colors. Now that might sound obvious to you, yellow and blue make green, right? But you can find out the specific types of colors that actually do it. And yes, my system can handle having mixed flowers. It won't properly keep the ratios most likely, so I'll want to have some genetic backups. But if I want to just let it go on and mix a bunch of colors for me and see what we get, I have that option. Along with the glass that I made last time, dyes can also be used to make ceramic. Ceramic can be combined with other types of ceramic to make all the same types of patterns available to glass and wood. You can then use a carpentry hammer to rotate the blocks into your desired direction, though I believe the top faces are locked to the top and the side faces are locked to the side. Do note that order matters with texturing. If it doesn't have the desired color orientation, you can just flip them. Speaking of blocks, let's get into a bit of tree breeding. To get started, you'll want a grafter. The grafter has low durability, so I'll also be enchanting mine. They're not expensive, of course. I just want a more durable tool. The grafter allows you to break leaf blocks and guaranteed get a sapling. This might not sound like a lot, but when you have specific mutated leaf blocks, you're going to want the guaranteed sapling drop. Now, because everything is going to get incredibly laggy if every tree were a forestry tree, most vanilla trees are just regular vanilla trees. Or in cases like Thaumcraft, they're Thaumcraft trees. This means that I'll have to convert vanilla saplings into forestry saplings. No, this does not work with Thaumcraft, just putting that out there. I can make a portable analyzer, and it does a job similar to the analyst, except it uses honey as its fuel? I don't know if fuel is the right word, but it consumes honey to make scans, so I guess it is a fuel in a way. Point being is that it takes saplings and converts them into their forestry versions, which allows you to crossbreed. You can also scan bees and butterflies, of course. In order to get trees to crossbreed, you're going to need to place them in range of some active bees. This is going to be based on the number of leaf blocks in the area. The bees will pollinate the leaves with pollen from the other tree. Sometimes they will pollinate themselves, but other times you'll get crossbreeds, and crossbreeds sometimes make mutations. This process is incredibly slow, and we'll have to come up with some other method of doing it later. Different bees can also have different pollination stats, but all of my bees have very low pollination stats, so I'm working with what I have. You'll also want to see some spectacles to see which leaf blocks have been pollinated and which haven't. Like I said, there's no guarantee that you'll get a cross-pollination on a given pollinated leaf block. There's only a small chance of you actually making the new species. But with the spectacles you can at least see which ones are and aren't pollinated. I've also set up a bee house around here. I'm curious to see if they do what the internet says and that they have a faster pollination rate than usual. Just an idea, I don't know if it's working or not. If you'll recall, a while ago I had the alveary sieve. This was an add-on for the alveary that collected pollen. Well, it just so happens that the pollen it collects is actually quite useful. If you right-click on a leaf block with the type of pollen you're holding, it will force pollinate it. So if you start collecting lots of pollen, you'll be able to get mutated saplings much quicker. In this case, I can combine apple oak and silver birch to make silver lime. There are a whole lot of trees, and their main appeal is just looking different. But some of them do make fruits. I don't believe the silver lime makes limes, but there are orange trees, there are lemon trees, there are cherry trees, which I've shown before. And you could start with these later trees if you want, if you find them in the wild. I just wanted to show off the beginner ones. And here we have a butterfly. Butterflies will do pollination of leaf blocks for you. They'll land on flowers, they'll land on trees, and they'll occasionally move pollen around. Sometimes they might be holding it. You can kill it to get the pollen. I believe there's a way to capture it, but I'm not interested in that right now. I'll just leave the butterflies be and let them do their thing. Alright, ready? I'm gonna bring someone else back. Trying a different body this time. Hello, who are you? It's okay. I didn't have too terribly high expectations of what you'd remember. Nice to meet you. I can fill you in if you'd like, or you can tell me if you need anything. Sure, yeah, I can do that. Do you care what my methods are? I know some people aren't quite favorable to the way I do things. Well, aren't you quick on the uptick? Glad to make your acquaintance. What would you like? Well, I have a bunch of those already, actually. It'll take a little bit for me to finish, but not too hard. Will do. I'll get it all working for you. One of the things I don't have easy access to from that list is clay. There are a few different ways I could go about making it. I might investigate all of them, actually. First on the list is a Sludge Refiner. This takes the sludge produced by the plant gatherer and turns it into useful blocks. In the original version of this mod in Minefactory Reloaded, well, I guess that's not the original, but that's beside the point, the Sludge Refiner, when operating, would poison things in an area around it. This is not true for the Sludge Refiner in the current version, so it's completely safe to set up. It'll be a steady supply of blocks, though clay isn't that common, so I'll see how fast it's actually making it. I'll put it in this nondescript miscellaneous machine corner, mostly just to use the empty space for something, you know? It might poke out into the hallway a bit, but I'll see how bad it gets. Alongside the other stuff, it makes soul sand, podzol, and mycelium. I guess if I wanted a large quantity of any of that for some reason. While I'm here to automate miscellaneous things, I should probably finally automate plastic, since I need a lot of black hole units. I won't be using the rubber wood because I'm not farming rubber wood, but spruce wood will do the job. Configuring all the items, plastic, and machines that go into it can be a little annoying, as well as routing power around. But it's okay, I'll figure it out. It helps that modern industrialization has its own input-output add-ons, so I'll be able to do all the logistics with that. I can finally make use of this above area. I was considering using ender chests to send all the items over to the village, but I ultimately decided against it. Still, the arcane crafter's at it again, making things easy. And to throw some weird blocks in there, I'm setting up a quarry. This is going to mine out an ocean monument to get the different types of prismarine. I don't know if I'll actually use any of it, but it's here. This is more of an errand for Blockus anyway, and I only have to mine out the monument. To consider something automated, I feel like it has to have a certain rate of production. For clay, it's simply not fast enough with just the Sludge Refiner, so I'll be supplementing it with some Thaumcraft. By infusing dirt with aqua essentia, it makes it into clay balls. To get pure aqua essentia, I can just smelt water bottles. The bottle doesn't seem to count. And then I've moved around the flux condenser to clean things up around here. Managing stock might be a bit of a pain, since overflow will spill out and not just stop the machine. But I don't know if I'm going to bother with automatic controls stopping it. I might just use a lever for manual control. Other than that, fairly straightforward. Bottler filling the bottles. Fill the smeltery with coal, have the water bottles come in, turn it into essentia. You get the point. I'd like to explore some other auto-crafting methods today. The arcane crafter is great and all, but there are still many recipes it can't handle. So I'm going to try out the advanced crafting table from Buildcraft. This is an auto-crafter, as you would expect, and it's powered by Buildcraft lasers. For my purposes, one laser will do. I simply want to actually auto-craft fertilizer. Remember when I said I would do that and then I never did? Well, I'm doing it now. By using a supplier module, I can make sure it always has a stock of ingredients, and it will just recursively craft the fertilizer. I don't know what will happen when it fills up, but I'm assuming it just stops running. I hope. Either way, scrap is free, and the fertilizer just makes more of itself. I did forget to mention that glowshrooms require glowstone touching them to fully grow. The glowstone can go above or to the side of the crop sticks, but obviously it is more compact to put it above because then I can fit more crop spaces into one confined area. I don't know what I'll do about the aesthetics of this. I know it is kinda ugly. I'll see how it is. I might consider adding an elevator shaft or something in here. While I don't need to automate Weedex, I'd still like to. So I'm going to automate collection of hoverfish using a resources fisher. This will just fish for you, pretty much. I can discard the things I don't want and void them, and then take back the rest of the stuff via ender chest. Might want to make sure that you have your wave generator hooked up to a medium voltage transformer though, or the low voltage flux generator might explode. I definitely didn't make that mistake, right? Standing around waiting for crops to grow just so I could increase their stats is boring. You know how I can fix that? With overgrowth fertilizer. Instead of ticking every 256 ticks, crops will now tick every tick with the fertilizer active. This kills the crop sticks effectively. After you do it, you'll have to replant the crop sticks in order to use that plot again. But for 5 minutes, the crops will be completely accelerated. This applies to all things crops can do. not just growing, but also mutating, spreading, and pretty much anything else, including weeds, so be careful. Higher end plants also require nutrients and water, so using this on crops that are too high in stats might result in their stats dropping from being malnourished. You also can't overdo it with the Weed X either, too much will cause the seed stats to drop. Still, this will make it much quicker to actually gain stats on my seeds because I can pick the best ones and keep working with those. The maximum seeds on all 3 stats for crops is 31. Of course, I'm not going anywhere near that. Man, breeding and 31, I don't know, those numbers are kind of familiar. Anyway, you'll of course want a crop matron to manage your crops for you. The crop matron will auto-nourish your plants, and it will also hydrate them. It can refill the hydration cell if it has water being piped into it, but you can't actually see this piped in water without some sort of add-on like the One Probe. You know, the one that lets you see more things about block details. But I don't even have Wayla or Hyla or whatever we have turned on, so obviously I'm not going to be seeing that. Because I was making so many crossbreeds, I happened to come across something else that was quite interesting, watery wheat. I did have to breed into this intentionally, as you require a high hydration on a particular plot to get it, but watery wheat will produce lapis. Conveniently, that's something else that I'm not getting from the ore bore. It's also important to note that different crops have different levels of growth stages. Wheat has more growth stages than netherwort, so naturally derivatives of each of those crops is going to match. But those crops with less growth stages might also have longer growth stages to compensate. IC2 crops are a robust system if you want to get into them, but I don't think I'll be getting into the iron or diamond seeds. This was a mistake, but it was still funny, seeing all the guardians flopping about on the ground. Not so tough without your water now, are you? And if you really wanted, you could just drain the temple before going in and explore it dry. Now to get back to making those blocks. Bricks are pretty simple, just feed clay into the furnace, then compact those to make them into brick blocks. And since I'm making all of these blocks for Blockus, how about we hook up the logistics pipes network into his house? This is the alternative to the ender chests I was talking about before. I can use high-speed pipes with a speed-up tube on either end, as well as some basic pipes to make sure the connectivity is okay, to run items all the way from the base over to here. It's a bit of a trip too, it's over 200 blocks away, but we can cross that distance much quicker with the high-speed pipes. It's not going to be fast, but I'm not the one using it. I'm letting them access my resources, so I'd say that's fair. But yeah, remember that you have to have those basic logistics pipes on either end to make sure that they know where things are being routed. Otherwise, the pipes on the far end might not recognize the rest of the network. I'd like to throw a few extra bonus blocks in for him. One of those is concrete. You've seen my concrete automation apparatus before, but now I've reconfigured it over here, and I'll be using yet another new type of autocrafter to make the concrete powder. Introducing the machine buffer, or reintroducing it I should say. What I'm actually introducing is the crafting upgrade. This will see if the machine inventory has the proper stuff to make a craft, and if it can, it will output into the inventory in the direction you've designated the upgrade. It did take a bit to get all the crafting done properly, but this might be a nice answer to compacting my crafting setups, as having those walls of logistics pipes crafters is very bulky, and I can fit up to 4 recipes per crafter with these. They do take some power though, probably. I actually don't know, but you know, I'm assuming they do. It does take a while to set up all the recipes though, so keep that in mind. Realistically, you're not going to need every color of concrete though, especially people like me who probably aren't going to build with all too many of them, but that's beside the point. On a related note to crafting concrete, I've fully automated all the dyes. And by automated, I mean I'm now putting them in actual storage instead of putting them in a giant chest and taking when I need them. I'm then using buildcraft pipes to sort everything. It's a bit basic, but it does the job. Pipe plugs are handy for stopping pipes from touching each other when I don't want them to. And eventually I'll put the sticky reed back here, but you don't need to see that. No, what you want to see is the actual automation process of crafting the concrete. So if I request a stack of lime concrete, well, it won't work because I didn't set the singular lime crafter into the right direction. But when it's working properly, you can see all the concrete powder going into the system. It gets placed by the block placer, the timer's doing its job, the redstone torch is doing its job, the concrete conducts the redstone signal on the bottom that activates the block breaker, and then what do you know, you have concrete. I don't want to fill my entire system with stacks of concrete, especially because it's going to have to cycle through each color and that's going to take forever. So I'm going to leave this one as on demand instead of fully automated passively. It's still a mostly automated system, and I think I did a pretty good job with it. The one thing I don't like is that the water is kind of awkwardly placed, but unfortunately fluid logging doesn't work like it does in vanilla in later versions. It will flow out and make a huge mess, so I can't just put it inside a leaf block and call it a day. Actually, I think that explicitly doesn't work, but that's beside the point. I've done some more bee breeding, and I've gotten my hands on occult combs and mysterious combs. These will provide me with magic wax. Magic wax is a core component in the Magic Bees mod, which adds a bunch of special types of bees that will make new things. It also makes a bunch of new types of frames, some of which will be very useful to me. I apologize for skipping over a lot of the bee breeding, but it really isn't all that interesting. We'll be fixing that problem in a bit though. Sometimes bees have weird requirements for mutations to occur. For the arcane bee, it's more likely between two particular moon phases. Conveniently, that's actually the time it is right now. I didn't plan for that, but I'll take some convenience when I can get it. Finally, with spirit bees, I have access to soul combs, and memory combs, but they're not really what I'm here for. Soul combs will produce soulful wax, which is yet another crafting component. This one, however, allows me to make the essence of a shallow grave, which in turn makes a necrotic frame. Necrotic frames greatly reduce the lifespan of the bee, to make it to where if you have enough of them, they'll pretty much instantly die after one cycle. While this has its downsides, its upsides are tremendous. Mutation is effectively instant now, and while there are frames that increase the mutation rate, I don't need that with the mutator and the alveary. So as long as I meet the criteria, I can breed whatever bee I want now. I'll be rebuilding my bee stuff between this episode, the next one, I don't know about the one after, we'll see. Some types of bees require a specific block underneath the apiary or alveary in order for the mutation to occur. Such is the case with the bees that make Thaumcraft crystals. There really are a ton of ways of getting these things, though it does take a while to get to bees. In this case, I'll have to put an order crystal underneath. I will be setting up formal automation for a lot of this stuff in the next episode. For this one, we're just getting our feet wet. But you can see how fast that mutation happened. It happened basically instantly. Just make sure that you keep repairing those necrotic frames or you'll have to craft more. So yeah, now I have ordered combs, a new way of producing order. There's one other method to make them. I'll probably get to it next time. And then we can finally start automating Thaumcraft recipes, because I am very tired of having to manually craft arcane mechanisms and other stuff. I should also get around to automating processing of bee products. This also produces extra redstone. I don't know if I really need a lot of extra redstone, but it makes it. And another thing I should mention is that these produced ordered crystals from the bees have much higher amounts of essentia per item than the actual grown bees crystals you find in the world. I'm not sure why that's the case, or how they managed to accomplish that, but if you want those pure types of essentia, I guess it makes a lot of them. The next type of bee I'm looking for is gonna be the diamond bee. Take a wild guess as to what the diamond bee produces. To go down that path, I'm going to need rocky bees. Rocky bees are found in rocky hives, which are found underground near stone. Probably the best way to find it is to just set up a quarry and have it go mining. The way I handled my world, I actually removed all the rocky hives around spawn, since I didn't want them interfering with the IC2 miner. Because the miner uses the actual tool it's using to break the block, while the laser can break the beehives perfectly fine, the regular drill will get stuck. So to circumvent that issue, I just removed everything from the surrounding area. Though that does mean it will take more effort to go find more beehives elsewhere. You can probably set up a bunch of quarries in other regions, and you're going to want a number of them if you want to have multiple different types of resource bees, because rocky bees don't actually produce more than one drone, meaning you can't infinitely grow rocky traits. Other than that, it's nothing you haven't seen before. Breed the bees together, get the right traits, use the mutator to encourage mutations, get pure diamond bees with a pure diamond drone, and you can farm your diamonds. As a side note, you will need water bees as well on this path, and water bees have particular requirements for humidity. If you want to skip this, just mutate with a water drone, then you can make the lapis bee for the diamond bee, without having to deal with moisture or whatever. Since I can burn wood gas for power and transport it easily using ender tanks, I'm going to hook up the system that's producing charcoal with a giant storage tank for wood gas, and then hook that up into an ender tank, which will allow me to distribute the wood gas for power wherever I want. It's much easier to distribute fuel wirelessly than it is to distribute power. Wood gas isn't that energy dense, it only makes 10 EU per tick in a liquid fuel generator, but it will at least do the job. While it probably isn't necessary right now, I think it's still a good time to talk about painting your cables. IC2 Classic lets you paint your cabling with any color of the traditional Minecraft dyes. Unpainted cables will connect to any painted cable, but painted cables of different colors won't touch. The primary use for this is splitting up your voltages. You know, to make sure that you're not going to cause an explosion or something. Being able to separate your high, medium, and low voltage cabling is usually pretty helpful, especially if you're running those power lines close to each other, so you just have to right-click on a cable to paint it. The painters do have durability, but they're not that expensive, and realistically you're not going to be running most of your cables right next to each other. I've finally gotten around to automating honeycomb processing. The honeycombs being produced by the ender bees I set up all that time ago were starting to build up, so now I can automatically centrifuge them, and I'll go to the end and swap the ender chests frequencies. But essentially, there's one unified ender chest frequency for honeycomb input. The inventories are shared, so the distribution is always equal, and each of the hoppers will take the items out of the top chest and put them into the centrifuge. These then get taken out by the logistics pipe network, and will potentially send them to other machines if they need processing, or to the main input to the base, if it's some type of product I want to accumulate. I have also set up some carpenters. To process ender pearls, I don't need any fluids, so I can use one of the spaces that doesn't really have room for it for the ender pearls. Or I guess the pulsating meshes. And then I can hook up another one to water. I don't have a recipe for it yet. There's also a buffer chest in the basement, where all the logistics pipes things are. This is both an overflow and a place for intermediates to end up if needed. And then I also have a crafter going, because that's one of the steps in processing ender pearls. You know, I did promise Blockus to get him some terracotta, so here I am in a mesa biome. I went through the nether to get here, as while it is quicker, it also loads less chunks. And I am trying to minimize my exploration to keep the world size smaller. It's big enough as it is. Really, nothing different here is happening than when I mined out that ocean monument. But that pretty much wraps up all the blocks I needed to get for him. And so, by requesting something from this pipe, you can have any block you want come into the chest right there. Let me know if you want anything else. I can probably go get it. Well, when you have the effective workforce of an entire village, just with machines, yeah, you tend to get blocks pretty quickly. Yup, anytime. I'm here to help. Well, that just about handles it here, so it's time for me to get going. Oh, hey Octron, Kuromu, what's up? Talk about what? Alright, well I guess it's important. Come on in. So, what's up? What about it? What type of impulses? What do you mean? Well, I guess it was smart of you to have more data. That makes sense. Yeah, based on how golems work. Yeah, that's pretty much the conclusion we've come to. Oh, that's concerning. That's not what I would have expected. Have any more information? I'd rather not. I would really rather prefer to keep saving you guys, but I don't know. Oh, well, I am a little disappointed, but I guess we don't really have a choice, huh? Alright, I guess I'll try my best to be a little more contained. Thank you for your concern. I'm giving it my all for you guys, even if I do spend a lot of time on myself. Yeah, I do have to get home. One day. Thank you. It really means a lot to me that my efforts have been appreciated. Okay. Well, that certainly is interesting. I guess it's not really useful now, huh? With that walk to clear my head, I'm thinking maybe I should check in on how I'm doing. That's where the sanity checker comes in. It will tell me the state of my mind. Oh, that's concerning. That's not very good at all. Maybe I'm having these episodes while I'm trying to sleep, because I feel fine when I'm awake, or do I? I did have that problem that one time with that voice. You know, the one that told me how to revive villagers in the first place. Perhaps I should try to spend some time away from the lab. It'll help clear my mind out from all the stuff that I shouldn't be doing, you know? I wish it wasn't so difficult to deal with this situation, but I guess I don't have much of a choice. Whoa, what's this? Ah, enemies. And yet, I need to learn more about them. Something feels wrong about this portal, but I can't really determine what. I'll have to capture these guys and use them as samples later. Maybe learn a little more about them. I just found this portal by walking around. I don't think I would have found it if I were flying a lot higher, and they seem to not really like trees or grass or anything. It also only activated when I got within a certain distance of it. And on a serious note, it took me a really long time to find this thing. Crimson portals are kind of rare, and I seem to have gotten a lot of conflicting information online about them, but they effectively generate as part of the world gen and you just can't see them until you get close enough and then they start spawning things. If you encounter one of these early, I'd recommend scanning it. Try your best to kill them, but if you can't kill the mobs, run away. So what if I were to try to replicate these guys? Maybe if I had more of them, I'd be able to learn something, anything. And that's where the Mob Crusher and Mob Duplicator will come in. I can mooch off of the Wither Skeletons to get some mob essence, though I end up putting them into the spawner room with the skeleton cage instead. I can then use this mob essence with the Mob Duplicator and a captured mob in a safari net, mob imprisonment tool. Sorry, it's been years and I still call them safari nets. Well, the Mob Duplicator will take the mob and it will spawn a copy of it. For extra essence and power, you can also spawn an exact copy, but it only applies to particular mobs that might have variants or specific equipment. In my case, I don't need that. The generic version will do. If I keep recreating them, I should be able to get one of their books. Ah, I finally obtained one of their notebooks. Well, maybe a Crimson Ritual book isn't a notebook, but you get what I mean. I can now finally complete my research on the topic. And now, well, I'm actually not sure. Perhaps this wasn't a great idea, but I feel the same threatening presence from them that I did from that guy from before. This might be a lead. I just had to look through all of their research notes and see. Look, there's some void research here. I found void seeds in that fortress. Surely the two have to be connected then, right? I think I know enough to safely repeat the experiment with the flux rifts. Void seeds come from the flux rifts, and if I close them fast enough, they won't do enough damage to the surrounding environment. If I collect enough, I can turn them into metal, and this material might have some potential uses. The first thing I want to make with all this void metal is going to take a whole block of it. That means I need 72 void seeds. Flux rifts drop at least 4, but can drop up to like 9 or 10. So on average, I'd say they drop about 6. So I'll need about 12 rifts worth of void seeds. If you need more alienis, just use chorus fruit from the end, or use ender pearls if you have a large quantity of them. Vidium essentia can either come from the flux condenser or from netherwort, or you could grow vidium crystals, I guess. I didn't do that. I also need a nether star, which means I need to fight a wither. Withers are pretty straightforward, but might as well make a broken weapon to fight it, right? That's why I'm making a Nano Saber. This is a very strong weapon from Industrial Craft 2 Classic. It's a powered weapon, so it takes power to run, but it does a lot of damage per strike. I don't know how to turn it off. You're supposed to be able to turn it off the same way you turn it on, but a right click isn't working, so I'll just have to keep it in my bag to not waste power. And I mean, come on, it's a wither, I can fly, I have a strong weapon. I'm not going to lose to this. I can use my power to destroy it instantly. I've been constantly barraged by these attacks. I don't think things are right. Something's wrong, but I'm not sure what. Just need to make this void siphon, then it'll all be over. Everything should go back to normal. Can't let the flux win. My genius has won yet again. I can drain this flux rift and get the void seeds from it without having to collapse it. This should be a complete stabilizer. I think I've finally solved all of my flux problems. And I'm getting tons of void seeds too. I think I'll let it run and see how many I get from this rift. Well, I think I'm feeling a little better. And I've gotten tons of void seeds and this eldritch curiosity. Huh. I wonder if I'll get any new teachings from this. Why should I stifle myself? It was my job, my duty to save these people. I have more knowledge now. I don't care what those other guys have to say. I'm gonna go save myself a new villager. Different bodies attract different types of people, huh? Great knowledge. I'll try one made of clay next. All I have to do is